Tea is an iconic part of British culture, despite the fact that it didn't actually originate in England. In an actual fact, Britain's tea culture began in China, made a long journey through Asia, stopping off in Burma, India and Tibet before arriving at the English dock by the 17th century. Across Britain, an impressive 165 million cups of tea are consumed every day. That adds up to 60.2 billion cups a year. Ireland are the only nation to beat Britain cups per capita, and it's fascinating to know how a simple drink grew for the first time or so popular in the West. Let's take a look at some numbers. The average person in Britain drinks 876 cups of tea every year. Of course, not all at once. That's enough to fill 2 whole bathtubs per person.
If you know someone who drank that much tea by 9 o'clock most morning, stick around and find out things you never know about the nation's favourite drink.
Britain's shelves are full of as many different brands of tea as you can imagine. Some promise a homely, hearty brew, while other brands look at small specialty teas. Some brands that have filled the cupboard with Brits such as Tetley, Yorkshire Tea, PG Tips, or some smaller brands such as Tea Pigs or Bluebird.
Twinings.
Tea Pigs.
PG Tips. Twinings. PG Tips. Tetley.
Twinings.
The tea market is full of popular brands. However, one brand in particular sums up British beverage culture, and that is Twining. The official supplier of tea to Buckingham Palace. Every day people can wake up to the same English breakfast tea as Queen Elizabeth II herself. Twining is one of the oldest and most established companies in their field. Let's take a look inside. Inside this unassuming little shop at 216 The Strand in central London is a quintet labyrinth of tea. Not only the standard English breakfast for the morning wake-up drink, or the fancy Earl Grey stuff in case of visitors, but loose-leaf concoctions and fragrant and relaxing beverages with innovative twists. Just looking at the stately shelf packed with infusion that have arrived here in London from India and China to make their way into your favorite teapot takes your breath away. And even standing here in the doorway, that smells is so evocative, an explosion of exotic, vibrant colors and tastes.
Do you prefer tea bags or loose tea leaves in your tea?
I prefer tea bags.
Tea bags. Tea bags first. For the convenience.
I prefer loose tea.
What's your favourite brand of tea?
I'd say Twinings.
Earl Grey.
And Yorkshire tea is my favourite brand for every day.
PG.
Okay. I love puka tea.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people say pucka, a lot say puka, it's kind of like potato tomato. Yeah.
How much milk and sugar do you use?
Not much milk, but a lot of sugar.
No sugar at all, either of us. Very little milk in tea. Lemon is our preferred way of drinking it.
Mostly milk and 2 teaspoons of sugar.
I don't use any sugar, and it depends on what tea I'm having. If I'm having black tea, then I will have a bit of milk, but I prefer almond milk.
How often a day do you drink tea?
About twice a day. Once in the morning and once in the night.
We pick the wrong people for
Yeah,
tea,
we
really.
drink
We're
more
coffee
coffee.
drinkers.
Are you?
So possibly only twice a week.
Really?
Twice a day.
I have green tea in the morning, and then I'll have a coffee around midday, but then I'll go back on to tea for the afternoon.
That's fine, yeah, it's like whatever you want. So, when you do drink tea, when is your favourite time to drink it?
Afternoon, in the afternoon.
Afternoon tea?
Well, if I'm not in a rush or running on the train or something, I quite like it in the afternoon, like mid-afternoon, around 3, I'd say. It's quite a nice, relaxing time to have it.
What kind of biscuit do you like to go along with your tea?
Digestive.
Chocolate or regular?
Or hobnobs.
Hobnobs. I like shortbread with mine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Digestives.
Any at all or not?
I don't really have a biscuit, but if I would, and if it's, if it was my choice, I'd have like I love the malt biscuits. I think they're quite old-fashioned, but
So today I'm just making a cup of tea, as I do, and I've been using Twinings Earl Grey like since my first cup of tea really, so yeah. I put the kettle on, I get the tea, I get my cup, and then by the time that's done, it's already hot, so I just pour it up till about 3/4 of the way. Luckily for me, there's one ginger biscuit left, so that's usually what I use when I'm having tea, because it's the best.
Maybe you're happy with a Buddhist brew, or maybe green tea or chai tea is your ideal of a perfect cuppa. This shop has it all. Twinings has been the leader in the British tea market since its creation in 1706, and the man we have to thank for is the great man himself, Thomas Twinings. Mr. Twining was working for the East India Trading Company employed by a gentleman named Thomas VIII. He opened Britain's first tea room in 1706 after purchasing Thomas' Coffee House, this building right here. Twining had been selling tea along with coffee, but soon the fine tea he supplied were becoming more popular than coffee. He began to sell dry leaves so that people could brew their own tea at home, turning what has been an exotic beverage into a staple of our culture. And this long-lasting brand of tea isn't just one of the rich. Twining is bought by families all over UK and served in cafe and tea shop across Britain. Now, tea obviously didn't sell itself here. The transportation of dry leaves were instigated by the East India Company, a trade company that was at the forefront of the trade globalization. The East India Company were accountable for a massive 50% of the world trade, specializing in what has once been an exotic and unimaginable and making it available to purchase from cities such as London. Some of these things include fine fabrics such as silk and cotton, dyes that couldn't be sourced in the Western world, and food items such as salt and spices, and for Thomas Twining, most importantly, tea. Interestingly enough, tea was always sold as loose leaf until the 20th century. The idea was that tea maker would use a metal strainer to infuse the water with the tea and then remove it. In fact, it was an accidental invention. When American tea merchant Thomas Sullivan in 1908 would send small sample of tea in silken bag to customers, these customers misunderstood that the bag was intended to be opened and poured into a strainer, and instead they used the bag itself as the strainer. This little accidental invention led to a development and improvement to remove the need of a strainer and was very popular in the US. Of course, it took much longer than you think. However, to popularize the tea bag in Britain, Tetley was driving force of tea bags in the early 1950s and even bring into the 60s. Maybe it's part of your everyday life. Maybe you're just not a fan. But tea has such rich and fragrant history that spans all over the world and has made its mark on British culture. But thanks to Thomas Twining and Thomas Sullivan for the tea bag accidental invention, Britain has so much more to come. Now run along and go make yourself a cup of tea.
Hold me close and hold me fast. The magic spell you cast. This is La Vie en Rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes, I see La Vie en Rose. When you press me to your heart, and in a world apart, a world where roses bloom, And when you speak, angels sing from above. Everyday word seems to turn into love song. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be la vie en rose.